Om Tat Sat. Welcome to Gyan Bhakti. We are currently studying the scripture Mysticism of Ramayana. Commentary is by my Guruji, Swami Jyotirmayananji Maharaj, narrated by myself, Swami Nikhilananda. We are currently on Ayodhya Kand, and yesterday we had covered Bharata going to the forest to get back his brother, Lord Rama, so that he could be the king. Lord Rama could be the king. So let's continue. After Rama, Lakshmana, Sita, Guha, Bharat and Shatrughana had all exchanged their loving greetings, Rama then went to the forest to meet Guru Vashisht, the queen mothers and thousands of citizens of Ayodhya who were awaiting his presence. While meeting with the mothers, Rama chose to speak first with Kaikeyi, knowing that Kaikeyi was in greater mental torment than anybody else, because she was the one who had sent Rama to the forest. Expressing his gentle nature and bowing at her feet, he consoled her by saying that all that had happened was not her fault, but was merely part of a divine plan. To the others assembled, he emphasized that no one should blame Kaikeyi, for in this mysterious world, no one should be considered the cause of another's misery, because it is all part of karma, the part of divine plan. After all the pilgrims were made comfortable, Guru Vashisht informed Rama, Lakshmana and Sita about the death of King Dashratha. Hearing this for the first time, Rama and the others were overcome by grief, and they spent the next few days performing the traditional Vedic rituals for the departed soul. Bharata shines in the Ramayana as the quintessence of devotional movement. Leading that huge party from Ayodhya through the forest in search of Rama, the object of their love, Bharat exemplifies that state of radiant devotion which was lived by Chaitanya, Ramakrishna Paramhans, and other great devotional saints of all religions. A devotee is a sage or a saint who is in deep communion with God, either while yearning to attain God realization or after having attained it. Such a devotee is given the greatest prominence in devotional literature, even greater than God himself. It is said in the scriptures that in order to find God, you have to find a devotee. Any vision of God that has developed in your heart will not bloom to perfection unless you have come in contact with a devotee or a bhakta. Although an aspirant will receive glimpses of the Supreme Self during sattvic moments, those glimpses will fade unless they are nourished by the association with a sage. In such inspiring satsanga, the mind continues to aspire for experiencing the fullness of the divine vision. The meeting between Bharat and Rama in the forest is one of the most beautiful and moving devotional portraits that Saint Tulsidas Ji has created in the Ramayana. The heart of every aspirant can easily feel the power of that moment when Rama raced spontaneously towards Bharata, with his arrows scattering in one direction and his bow in another, and his upper cloth trailing behind, and then lifted Bharata up and enfolded him in his arms. That is the mystical event that all devotees wait for, communion with the Divine Self. When the veils of impurity are lifted and the devotee at last comes close to God, he realizes that throughout his sadhana, God has been waiting to meet him, so to speak, with eager expectation. Overjoyed at the increasing nearness of the devotee, the divinity gets up from his throne of eternity and infinity, throws aside his arrow, bow and quiver, and rushes with 1,000 strides at a time towards the devotee. Like Rama, embracing Bharata, the transcendental Brahman, who is forever beyond the reach of mind and senses, comes within the mind of a devotee by the force of love. So for a devotion, for our bhakti, it is love that is the most important. That divine self becomes tangible and real to a devotee. He becomes the friend and beloved of a human soul, a personal ocean of love and compassion. How can that be possible? Asks the dry intellect. By the miracle of devotion, responds Tulsidas ji. More insight is given into the miracle of devotion by the description of Guha, the king of the Nishad, a wild tribe that was normally considered untouchable by royalty and members of high classes of ancient India. Many princes would not have allowed themselves to come in contact with even the shadow of a Nishada. Yet there in Ayodhya Kand, Guha is embraced by Rama and folded in the arms of Bharata. Why? Because he is a perfect devotee, and devotion transforms the human personality and invests it with a unique enchantment through which all limitations and defects are ignored. Mystically, when the scriptures speak of a nishad or of any member of a low caste or even of an outcast or chandala, they are implying a person who has not developed devotion and thus lives in a world of rajas and tamas, a world that is untouchable by more elevated souls. From a philosophical point of view, the world of sages and saints is the only true world, and anyone who has not entered into that world remains an outcast. His mind goes on flowing in a world of illusion. He incarnates repeatedly from one body to another, and thereby, as the scriptures say, he is the Atmahano Janaha, which means murderer of many bodies. He craves the same objects and sense enjoyments that have been enjoyed and rejected again and again by countless other deluded souls. Therefore, he is said to be delighting in vomited stuff. Thus, from a spiritual point of view, all those who lack true devotion are to be considered outcasts. With devotion, however, one rises beyond all limitations and becomes divine. No matter what may be one's profession or station in life, no matter what may be his defects or limitations, devotion raises him to the highest summit of human potential. Thus, in Ayodhya Kand, Bharat and Guha join forces to retrace Rama's steps through the forest. Walking side by side with the hand of the prince resting warmly on the shoulder of the Nishada, the two devotees together embody the highest possible unfoldment of divine love within the human heart. In this portion of Ayodhya Kand, Tulsidas ji, through his saintly artistry, gives us more valuable insight into the role of Kaikeyi in the story of Rama. When Rama rushes to greet the queen mothers from Ayodhya, he first adores Kaikeyi because she was the apparent cause of his banishment and because she had suffered so much abuse and rejection as a result of that. After this act of sublime compassion, he instructed the others assembled there not to blame Kaikeyi for her actions because she was merely an instrument in the divine plan. So we will continue this in tomorrow's satsang. Om Tat Sat.